So what do they do is that they test the vehicles also. Independent, they independently test. They are not related to Euro NCAP, Asian NCAP, or any other NCAP regulations that comes into the picture. So what happens is that when they test their vehicles as per their standard, okay, the weaker the vehicle, say for example, your as per their standards, if your vehicle they are doing for a 40% offset crash, and they found okay, it has to be only the vehicle has scored only say for example 3 star, and there is another vehicle which has cost some 4 star. If your vehicle is a 4 star vehicle, you will have to pay less. Your premium, your yearly premium of insurance that you are paying is going to be less. Why is that? Because as soon as you're having a safer vehicle, right, your life expectancy increases. Your life expectancy, you become more protected inside a vehicle, correct, right? And that case, in that case, say for example, in terms of very heavy crash kind of thing, you're not going to sustain much injuries that you are going to as compared to the injuries that you're going to sustain for a 3 star vehicle, correct, right? At that point of time, if you're having a 3 star vehicle and you sustain a crash in that case, so your injuries will be much more higher than that 4 star vehicle, correct, right? So if it is a 3 star, when your injuries are higher, then the insurance companies and paying up like refunding your treatment, right? When you're going for a treatment, they used to pay up more because that is the way the insurance things use insurance system works, right? So when you have a 4 star vehicle, you have less energy, less injury over there, and you don't have to shell out more money. But now the thing is that you have to pay less premium on a high rated vehicle also. So this is how it is paying insurance instead of highway safety also you. So now the thing is that if you're looking at the Indian NCAP, right? India is slowly starting to come up with a new vehicle assessment program, which is very much in line with the Euro NCAP. It is Euro NCAP, it's called as Bharat New Vehicle Safety Assessment Program. Correct, right? All the Indian manufacturer, whether it is being made in India or sold in India, comes into this picture. Okay, so it's again up to the company's choice whether they wanted to get it tested from Euro NCAP or Global NCAP or Asian NCAP or BNB SAP. Just for your information, this BNB SAP that is coming up right now, it is being under drafted, I believe. So it is very much in line with the Euro NCAP that we are currently having. Okay, good. So now what do they do is that there are different types of Euro NCAP. As I have told that Euro NCAP, BNB, SAP are quite common. US NCAP and USA IIHS, Insurance Institute of Highway Safety. Right? There are different ways that they use to test this 64, 40% offset crash. They used to test at 64 km, 40% offset, full overlap. That is a full overlap. If you see over here, this is a 40% barrier that this is deformable barrier and it touches only the 40% of the vehicle from the center line of the vehicle. And if you see this is a full overlap vehicle kind of thing, this is a hard wall. This will be a wall that comes into the picture and they will hit it at the rate of 56 km/h. And if you see this is an IIHS, it is quite similar to the what we do in Euro NCAP, but IIHS has also come up with a new regulation that comes into the picture. It is called as 20% offset crash. 20% offset crash is kind of when you are just hitting the vehicle, when you're just missing the vehicle, correct, right? Just touched it. And that becomes a very dangerous situation in this case, because when you're at 40% offset crash, I will explain it to you. Like most of this 40% comes into your engine compartment. Correct. When you're having a 20% offset crash, only your tires comes into the picture, and hitting the tires, don't consider that as like a crash absorption structure. It particularly enters the complete vehicle enters the into passenger section, so it becomes a very dangerous situation. So most of the companies, they used to struggle in this 20 km/h. So if you see the side impact, right, so it's a vehicle that comes a stationary vehicle and it will come and hit at 50 km/h, and in US NCAP it will come at an angle, right? So if you see this it will come at an angle. So this is also an IHS, which is in line with the Euro NCAP over here. But the position, if you see, there are a lot of pictures that you can see, right? Say, for example, there are two dummies over here, an adult, a teenage, and a child over there. But in IHS, there are different ways of how they used to do with two adult over here. Similarly, for a pole crash, right? When you're skidding or something, when you're hit it a pole, a tree or something, those information comes into the picture. So now the question is that from where this speed used to come? Correct, right? We always have a question like, okay, our vehicle, definitely we are not going to always keep on driving at 64 kmph so that we always have, whenever we are crashing, that we are safe. That is not the case over here. So even if you're riding at 100 kmph or 120 kmph based on the speed limit that you are driving in. So these speed limits, from where do they come, is based on survey data. Correct, right? So there are, when you're crashing your vehicle, right? When you're crashing a vehicle, there are a lot of sensors that comes into the picture. There are a lot of sensors. There are ECU which can record your speed at what the type of crash that you have done. Your airbag control unit, it's there. Correct, right? These sensors, they pick up all the information when you have done the crash. Correct, right? So, and based on the survey, what they found out is that whenever there is a crash in Europe, 64, somewhere around 63 to 65 kilometer per hour after pressing the brake, right? So when you're, say for example, when you're doing a panic brake, also when you're driving at, say for example, 100 kilometer per hour, most of the cars that used to crash on a full 40% offset is somewhere around 63 to 65 kilometer per hour. Correct, right? So this is a survey and the standard deviation that they have taken into picture, and that is where the number comes into the picture. This is a very survey information regarding the US NCAP also. US also comes on the similar survey information, and comes that okay, 56 is the speed at which most of the crash takes place, and it is a full overlap crash. Correct, right? And similarly, all these informations are taken into consideration for the pole crash, side crash also. Correct, right? So if you see there are roof crash also, how do you do the roof crash? Then there is a pedestrian protection, right? What type of, what is the head size, what is at what speed that they are going to act. Say for example, if you're going at a speed of 32 kilometer per hour and it is being hit, you are hitting a pole kind of thing. So this is how it is being. So this is just what do they measure, right? So what do they measure? So I have just taken a very beautiful vehicle, Tata Altroz. I think you have seen, it's a very latest model that comes into the picture, has come into the Indian market. There's a very high level of protection that comes into the picture, right? If you see, what do they measure, right? And how do they measure, right? If you see, there are a lot of, when you have a dummy inside, right? There are a lot of types of dummies that are available. Dummy in the sense like mannequin. When you see, those mannequins are very advanced mannequins that will be like 95 percentile male, 5 percentile female. As such, there are a lot of dummies 80 percentile male. Correct, right? So if you see an average us based mannequin design, it will always be 90 percentile male. When you see an Indian build, it will be somewhere around 85 percentile male. So the build structure has taken into the build structure of the all humans are taken into consideration and put a dummy over there. There are a lot of dummies that are available over there, and they test it for those dummies. Now these dummies, what you'll have is that they have a G sensor. Okay, so they have a G sensor inside. So when you're crashing a vehicle, maybe a side crash or a frontal impact or any other vehicle, right? This G sensors always senses like what is the acceleration that comes into the picture when a particular vehicle is being crashed onto it, right? And what happens is that if you see the skeleton, right? If you see the human body, right? There are certain G forces at which there might be cracks, or there might be fractures, or there might be breakage, or it might be even fatal to the neck. There are a lot of injuries that they take into consideration, like head injury criteria, chest injury criteria. The G sensors, they used to measure the G forces that come into the, what to say, on the vehicle, and they measure it onto the dummy inside. When they measure it onto the dummy, correct, right? They calculate based on what type of speed injury criteria that is coming. They calculate, there is a certain formula for it. Okay, there is a certain formula for it. Don't worry about the formula right now, because this is not much of a relevant over here. This is not much of a relevant, because this will be absolutely based on, what to say, physical test. Correct, right? This is absolutely based on physical test. So what we do in simulation is that when you have a chest intrusion value, like what is a knee intrusion, when you are having an airbag over there, when you have a steering over that comes and hits your chest, right? What is the intrusion of the chest that goes inside your chest, right? Say for example, there is a 10 millimeter intrusion of the steering wheel into your chest. Can the rib cage take your the 10 millimeter intrusion of your chest? It is a 15 millimeter, 20 millimeter, 30 millimeter. Those type of chest intrusion values are coming into the picture. So say for example, if a vehicle says it has crashed and it has, the steering has gone into your chest, say for example by 30 millimeter, can the rib cage take a 30 millimeter of intrusion values into it? No, it will, the rib cage will break. If your rib cage breaks, then what will happen? If your rib cage breaks, then it might pierce into your heart, your lungs, and as such the situation becomes, these things are calculated that way. right? If it pierces into your heart or your lungs, kind of thing, these things can become very fatal, correct, right? So this is how it is being calculated, correct. So now if you see that at the bottom, right? So if you see at the bottom over here, this is g forces that it comes into the picture. And when a crash takes place, it happens in milliseconds. It happens in milliseconds. So if you see the g forces over here for a 48.3 kilometer crash test with no airbag, there are vehicles in the market which has no airbag at all. And if you see the g sensors, they are coming at somewhere around 100 g, that is being calculated over here. So if you see this 100G, like it is a head injury criteria, then comes into the picture with the seat belt and all. It is coming around 681, correct, right? So when you have an airbag, right? So when you have an airbag, these G forces are actually dissipated across the timeline, correct, right? When you see at, say for example, 80 millisecond over here, you have a G forces somewhere around 40, but what is a spike? This energy conservation of energy, right? It becomes of energy management, crash energy management process, right? So this spike of somewhere around 60 of was dissipated somewhere around in 220 to 240, correct, right? So this is how you dissipate the energy. This is how you are supposed to. So if you see, there is a less g forces that comes into the head, correct, right? Because with an airbag, it acts as a cushion, and the head injury criteria reduces drastically. When the head injury criteria reduces drastically, at that point of time, this g forces also reduces. So at that point of time, what you will get a calculation value, and it will tell you whether it is adequate or is it good enough, so that there is no fatal over here. Like say for example, you are a poor or a weak or a marginal, or is adequate or is it very good, correct, right? So this is how it is being calculated, correct. So now, initially when we were talking about it, we were talking always about the research point of view, correct, right? How do you do the research, right? So now, coming at the research point of view, we'll get a bit technical about it. We have given an introduction of how it is being done, like for whom you are supposed to do, what we are supposed to do, and why do we measure it, and how do we measure it, and all this comes into the picture, right? If you see the research perspective, right? So the research, if you see, there is a benchmark, the strategy, and the calculation. This is very, very important for an engineer who is going to do a project related to crash, whether it can be like side impact, it can be pole impact, it can be 40% offset crash, it can be a full overlap offset crash, or it can be like a roof crash, or it can be a pedestrian crash, right? There are different types of crash projects that are available in the that are available, right? The companies used to do for their own projects, right? There will be separate teams for it. So when you're doing it, right? So this research, this benchmark will run to somewhere around 4 to 6 months. What do you do that? You have to study, and there are different OEMs that comes into the picture, right? So different OEM, there will be a lot of benchmark companies that will take, like A2 Mac, then Advanced Structures India. There are different types of companies who do a lot of benchmarking. They strip down the vehicle, they cut the section, they take out what is the thickness of the vehicle, thickness of each sheet metal components that are being designed. They take into the consideration what is the material that is being used. They study the sections over here, body mass index. Basically, when you see a body mass index, we always understand whether it is our weight to height ratio that we use to measure for ourselves, for our own body. But interestingly, cars also have a body mass index. I'll explain it to you what is a body mass index, like how does it work. Okay, then what is a base model, old generation threshold value? What is a old generation that is being done? How it is being tested? What are the factors? Where was the weak point and all this? What is the strategy? What is the strategy of different OEMs? Tatas might be following a different strategy of achieving a 5-star rated vehicle. Mahindra might be thinking of a different strategy for achieving a 5-star vehicle. The Hyundais might be thinking in a different way. Hondas might be thinking in a different way. So all these strategies has to be studied, and it takes somewhere around 4 to 6 months of study. And if you have this very information, right, the benchmark information, I'll explain it to you why a benchmark is important, correct, right? So when you, then we have to move to the strategy, correct, right? When you have a benchmark, you have studied all other informations of the component designs, the strategy that is being used by other companies, and how it is being done. Is there any latest technology that they have used? Is there any tricky way of solving a particular problem segment that they have used? Or they try to find it out, then they form into the strategy. The strategy point, so in the strategy, like, what you have to do is that they always look whether you want to absorb, you want to deflect, you want to distribute. So force distribution also has to take. How do you want to absorb, whether you want to absorb 40% of the energy that is coming on an offset crash into the engine compartment itself, or how do you want to dependency on active safety and passive safety. Active safety like pre-tensioners, ESP, brake distribution, traction control. Like if you're not scoring enough from the structures, then you give the traction control. This traction controls and EBDs model or ESP, or say for example your pre-tension and all these things, small things, you'll always add some brownie points. Okay, say for example you are achieving somewhere around 3.9, your score is somewhere around 3.9, and you are just short by four by scoring a 4 star, correct, right? You are scoring somewhere around 3.9. What do these companies do is that instead of spending so much amount of engineering information to make it a 4 star vehicle, in order to make it a 4 star vehicle, you have to do a lot of research again, you have to do a lot of calculations again. So in order to do that, what do they do is that, okay, they say, okay, let us give us a traction control. If it is possible, if it is an automatic vehicle, traction controls becomes very easy. So if it is an automatic vehicle, let us give us a traction control system. Let us give an electronic stability program over there. Can we program it? Electronics things are just about programming. Can we program them? If we have programmed them, what do they do is this: these companies like Euro NCAP or IIHS and all, they add some brownie points to it. Say for example, you are in 3.9 star, and because you have added traction control, you are getting some zero point 0.1 points of it, and you score a 4 star. So this is how you achieve a 4 star, even though the structure might not be a 4 star rated structure. But since you have added an active safety or a passive safety feature into the vehicle, you achieve some brownie points and you have achieved a 4 star vehicle. So this is how it is being done by OEMs, right? And then a platform definition in the sense like, if you see the Volkswagens, if you see the Nissans, if you see the Renaults, they have a common module family, MKW platform, they have a B platform. All these platforms, different types of platforms will be used for different types of vehicles. A hatchback might not be the same, and a platform of a hatchback might not be the same that can be used for a sedan, or a SUV will have a different platform kind of thing. Platform, why that particular platform is particularly designed for that particular purpose only, and to fit a particular kind of an engine or a setup or an architecture, correct, right? And you have to choose at the timeline also, right? What is a timeline that you have to take into consideration, whether you are going to make these vehicles in, say for example, 3 years project or a 4 years project, whether you will be able to achieve it or not. All this thing, it comes into the picture. So this is a strategy that has to be done. So making this strategy, it takes somewhere around 1 to 2 months, and then your calculation comes into the picture. Benchmark, strategy, and calculation. Calculations is kind of a master sections, free body diagrams, lump mass model, section strength, and buckling strength. This is where our engineering applications of engineering, like strength of materials that we have studied, we have studied kinematics, we have studied dynamics in our engineering courses. So this is where it comes applicable. So we need to be very much like thorough with our concepts of strength of materials. When you're looking at structures, when you're coming for an OEM, when you're working for a four-wheeler industry, it may be a two-wheeler industry also. Like strength of materials is the base, and you need to know a lot of things about the materials. Correct. Right? So this design and development takes somewhere around 6 to 8 months, depends upon the complexity of the project. Say for example, it's a very complex project, or if you a complex project in the sense like if you're going for an SUV, or if you're going for a bus, or if you're going for a van kind of thing, those are very huge structures, right? So it might not be like 6 to 8 months, that might be going more than like 11 months, 12 months as such. So this is a basically typically a very basic understanding, and different companies have their own design timelines. So we have to adjust these timelines based on the project or the vehicle that we are doing. Coming to the benchmark. Okay, so when we are doing a benchmark, right? So okay, what is a benchmark? Why somebody is doing a benchmark over here? Why it is being done, right? Why do you means what are the factors? How, say for example, if you're doing something, then we ask them, okay, how this particular OEM is doing it. Then the first question they always ask us, like, why do I want to do a benchmark? The two questions that I always used to get. Benchmark is like a copying from others. Like, why do you want to really do it? We don't want to copy somebody, correct, right? We don't want to copy somebody. Why should I copy somebody? Like, if he is doing it in such a way that he is passing it, that is his problem statement. Our problem statement is totally different. Why does it work? Why should I do that? So, and the second question that, okay, fine, I will do this some benchmarking. Like, we are not even competing that say we are not even competing with that particular product. Say for example, if you are designing a Mercedes Benz over here, okay, when you're designing a Mercedes Benz and you say like, okay, let's do a benchmark of, say for example, Hyundai, okay, then the question might come into there is a separate, these two brands does not compete against each other at all in the same segment, correct, right? Then why should we do a benchmark? Correct, right? That is the question. But we actually are supposed to do a benchmark, because what happens is that when we are doing a benchmark, right, we understand like how when you're looking at these budget companies, right, when you do at a mass market production, right, we always learn a lot of smart solutions from them. We always try to understand a lot of smart solutions from them. Is there's a particular way it doesn't mean that okay, he belongs to a separate category altogether. We are not. We are supposed to benchmark everybody. We can learn things from everybody. So that is the understanding. So why do we do benchmark? Because it's the perspective that you need to. Where do you stand? What things that you are doing good? What things you are not doing good? How is that person doing better? Like easy, like say for example, a particular vehicle might be costing around 6 to 7 lakhs rupees in the market, and he is achieving, say for example, 4 star. Like try to understand like why is he, how on how did he achieve that 4 star vehicle? Correct, right? With only 6 lakhs rupees of in 6 lakhs rupees, he's giving it to the customers at 6 lakhs rupees, and he's able to achieve 4 star. Correct, right? There should be some cost involved in it. How is it doing it? That we need to understand, and we need to understand the performance of it also. What is the weight crash? A new technology application. Is there any new materials that is being used by some country which we might not be able to understand? There are a way we need to benchmarking to standardize, right? How we need to measure the industry. It will help us to develop our DVP, DFMEA. Like, is there any other section strength calculation that we need to do? How do you do the DVP? How do you do the cam drum test? How do we do the torture test? Is there a DFMEA that we might have missed? Improvise, correct, right? From the previous DC, how do you improvise from the? Say for example, if from a previous structure we are able to achieve only 3 star or a 4 star kind of thing, can we do something by looking at somebody like what type of technology that they have used, what type of design strategy that they have used? Can we implement the same understanding from them, and can we implement into our vehicle so that we can improvise? Can we cut down the cost? Can we cut down the cost over here? Cost cutting is not about being cheap over here. Cutting down the cost is about being smart over here, right? At what cost are you able to achieve the same performance level, right? And there are expectations. There are different types of expectations. Expectations can come in different forms and factor, but the reality are totally different. You might be expecting, okay, based on our budget and constraint, there might be we might be able to achieve 4 star, but when you are giving it for crash test, you might not be able to achieve 3 star, 4 star. You might be scoring somewhere around 3.5, 3.6 or such. But so this is the reality. What is the problem that we are coming into? By giving a high strength steel over there, then we are not able to achieve like materials. We are not able to get this material. We are giving a high strength dual phase steel that we are using, but this type of material is not available in the country that we are producing. We have to constantly keep on monitoring like what are the technology trends that are coming. Is this company is using a proper technology that over here? Is he using a, like say for example, tailor weld blank steel that is coming, where a particular steel has two different thickness. A single sheet metal will have two different thickness. It is kind of a laser welded together, and they used to form the part. These are new technologies. It's kind of not a new technology, it's an old technology, but it is very prominently being used among the OEMs that is.